This video is for the Federal Attorney General of Australia to actually report on two witnesses from two different court cases, and having never known the lady that I'm speaking to now, as to confirming that crime exists within the Federal Magistrates Court with a lady called Federal Magistrate Demack. Her first name is Elizabeth. She has tortured both myself and this lady in the courtroom, and we would like to talk today about what happened in our court cases to reconfirm of what we actually went through. And we do believe, we've spoken off camera, that there could be people that have died by the actions of Federal Magistrate Demack. We both understand that we have seen professionalism in courts. We have both had other judges who are professional and unbiased people, but it's not the unbiasedness as much as it is, because that's what ensures the child is out of the picture, but it is the abuse that we suffered in the courtroom. So how, for the viewers and for the Federal Attorney General, how did we meet?
I met you, John, through, I have often scrolled on the net to find out what's going on regards to Australian law and the family law courts, and I wish I had met you a bit sooner, but everything in God's time, as they say.
Yep.
And I saw your videos on YouTube. And when I started to watch your videos, I watched all your videos, and when I heard that you had the same judge as me, I contacted you because I was quite shocked that we have some similarities as to how we've been treated.
Would you say that Federal Magistrate Demack, her attitude in the court, was she, for myself, she was yelling at the top of her voice. Unfortunately, she's gone and altered the recordings that I've received. I'm the first Australian to actually receive the recordings, and it's taken me 2 years, and it actually sent me into depression when I found out that the recordings have been edited. But do you have other witnesses as well as yourself as to the way that she was yelling and swearing in the courtroom?
Well, on my the final when I was forced to sign a piece of paper to state that there wasn't enough evidence to say that my daughter had been sexually interfered with by the father.
Who brought up that allegation? Was it yourself?
No, my daughter brought it up to a family member.
Wow. And so did your daughter get interviewed in relation to that as well?
She had many, many interviews, which I found was very, very abusive in a sense to a child of that age, and to be brought in to have interviews for an hour with police officers and docs people and child psychologists for the courts. It was just horrendous, and I find it quite criminal what my daughter was put through at such a young age.
With me, Federal Magistrate Demack, she denied my witnesses to enter the courtroom. Now, I believe that happened to you as well.
That's correct.
And also you were denied to ask questions.
Um, I was asked questions, and I found that I was bombarded with questions from both the barrister and the child psychologist, which made my answers not very clear because I
But
was.
hang on. Did Federal Magistrate Demack also ask questions?
She
And
did ask questions.
did she ask many questions?
I don't know if there were many, but it was her manner in
Yeah.
which she addressed me
Hmm.
and her manner towards me, which I found very disrespectful.
Yeah. Did she pretend to go to sleep in the chair, cross her arms, look at a watch, and pretend that she's not listening to your answers?
Yeah, I found that she wasn't very interested in my side of the story. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, she had already made a decision that
Yeah.
you're full of it and wouldn't listen. Can you actually read out for us the psychologist report? And who was your first judge that you had?
My first judge at the Lismore courts
Yep.
was S.M. Slack.
And from my understanding, he's actually quite a non-biased judge. Is that correct?
That is correct. He was very non-biased and treated everyone the same.
Yeah, which you would expect in a courtroom.
That's correct.
So, and did he allow to just allow the questions to be asked from both parties and to actually listen and not 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 treat you as if you're nothing?
Well, you see, he was the first judge when we were called to court.
Yeah.
But I also need to mention that I actually had no knowledge at all of the court proceedings, as I had
Yeah.
received no summons to the courts in my post.
Wow. Okay. All right. So, can you read out the now? It was a psychologist was appointed to actually do a family report. Is that
That,
correct?
that is correct.
And so, can you actually read out what his recommendation was? And this person was nominated by the court,
That's
and yep. So, could you read out what he believed was his strong opinion for the recommendation of your child and who that child should stay with?
yeah. Hedda also has a very strong attachment with her mother, and I believe she would find any major reduction in the time with her, such as a reversal of residency, to be greatly confusing and conflicting. I would suggest the court consider such a change only in an extreme situation where it considered Hedda to be in unacceptable risk, or her relationship with her other parent to be impossible to maintain in any other arrangement.
So, in other words, that psychologist wanted you to be the principal carer of
That's,
your child.
that's correct.
So, your partner, let's go on with the abuse that you suffered before the court. Can you explain about the head injuries and the permanent damage that you suffered from your ex-partner?
Yes, the abuse started when our relationship broke down in 2004, with throwing me across the bedroom. That's an assault. Screaming and shouting at me in front of my daughter, throwing me down the stairs in front of my daughter, grabbing her out of my arms so she'd be screaming and crying, And when I then went to Australia, I
Can I interrupt you,
yeah,
because there was also that you suffered injuries, as in you had blood, and that you were unconscious for a long period of time, and where your partner didn't even call an ambulance. Is that correct?
that is correct. In 2006, when he came to visit me and my daughter in Australia, I allowed him to reside with us because I thought it was important for my daughter to have contact with her father. And he threw me across the room where I went concussed
Yeah.
for 24 hours. And when I woke up the next day, it was winter in Byron Bay, which is very cold, and I woke up with no covers, and I had an injury to my head, and I had blood all over my face. So when I woke, and I quickly ran to the bathroom because I didn't want my daughter to see me like that. And I've done research on this. It's very often when a victim goes through something so traumatic, you're in such shock that you don't actually do the right thing by calling the police. Uh, and
But you also try and hide it because you're ashamed
Well, I
of.
was very ashamed, and also he knew he could do that to me there because I was new in the area of Byron Bay, and I hadn't established very strong friendships, and I was on my own.
Hmm.
So there was no network.
Were you on drugs at all?
No, I was not.
Okay. Have you ever been a drug user or anything like that in your life?
Yes, I have. Prior to when my daughter was born,
Okay. So when you're younger,
when I
young
well.
when you're young and foolish.
Well, I was very foolish. I've done a lot of foolish things in my life. I've been a bit of a wild child.
Yeah, yeah,
That all changes when you have a child. People that have had certain lifestyles either change or
yeah,
they just become worse and worse. And
exactly.
I made a conscious decision of changing my life, and
Yep,
part of that was actually relocating to Australia to seek a new life
yep,
and create a better life for me and my daughter.
yep.
Mm.
And we better explain that also, that your partner, your ex-partner, he basically didn't want to have anything to do with the child for a long duration because he was actually going out with other women. Is that correct?
Yes, he has multiple partners. I mean, he's had very many partners since we split up in 2000. Our relationship broke down in 2004,
Yeah.
which started with him having affairs. And uh, and that's continuing today. I mean, my daughter has been in the care of so many different women since my daughter's been taken out of my care. And a lot of these women have not been, treated my daughter very well.
Is your is he a drug user? Your partner?
I believe he is now.
You do
It,
believe?
I do believe he is, yes.
Okay. Your daughter, she will be able to confirm, and she did confirm also to police as well as to docs as well as to the family report writer that there was domestic violence that your partner was causing.
Yes. What, to docs, you mean?
Yeah. Did you mentioned that docs got involved as well because of the abuse?
Docs got involved only when my daughter had, after my daughter had made the allegations.
Okay.
And
Didn't now in the court, it was actual federal magistrate Demack who actually blamed you and said that you were the one who actually made the allegations.
it states in my court orders that I made the allegations of sexual abuse.
And that can be confirmed 100% by the Federal Attorney General that that is not the case whatsoever. That it was your daughter who made those allegations.
Well, the first allegations were made to a family member, and she made an affidavit about that.
Well, did she want to be with the father?
My daughter?
Yes,
No, not at all.
at that time.
At that time.
Do you think it's been fair just because of a biased magistrate who goes off half cock in a courtroom? Do you think it's fair what she does? Do you feel as though she just gets narky with someone and then she just wants that person to suffer for the rest of their lives?
I found her to be extremely biased. I found her to be disrespectful to me. I found that I was treated like a criminal,
Yep.
and my side of the story was not heard. And and also, I mean, to force a child to see their father and having to drive them from Mullumbimby up to Lismore to the contact centre, which is like, an hour and a half drive. And on the way, my daughter's throwing up. She does, she absolutely feels ill of the thought of going to see her father. And I'm being bullied and forced to make these contacts happen when my daughter is refusing to have these contacts and having to take her to a doctor after each visit to have certificates to say that my daughter's not well, and they are not being regarded by anybody.
That's pretty shocking.
It is absolutely, it was like living in a horror movie.
When your daughter sees this video, she'll know that you tried your best to try and stop it.
Yes, I hope she will really know that one day. I do.
For the viewers out there who are actually going through court, do you believe that you would have a better chance at getting contact if you make fabrications and more lies as the other person does? Is it better to lie in court, do you think, to actually have a better chance?
I think from your story and other stories, it seems like the more the fabrications, the more that is appreciated by a court. But I couldn't ever want to make fabrications because it's against
this is the thing is I've got Federal Magistrate Demack because I have never lied. I've never lied in the courtroom. I have never told a lie about the whole family matter. So that is why I'm standing up for other people, and such as you. There's going to be another person that I do an interview. It's another guy. I'm hoping more ladies and more guys who've actually had Federal Magistrate Demack can actually advise of what happened in their cases.
Yes.
But for people that are going through court, do you think that if we have people such as Federal Magistrate Demack in the courts, is it better to run away with the child and leave the country, or to just simply vanish with the child than actually go to court?
Absolutely.
Sorry, you're telling people that it is far better. I say the same thing. If you have anyone like Federal Magistrate Demack,
Yes.
you're best off running, and
Absolutely.
run as fast as you can. Just
I agree with
run.
you, John. I agree.
For the viewers, there is, the difference between a good judge and a person who's just got a disgusting mouth and who yells. Can you explain who the first judge was in your case?
The first judge in my case was S.M. Slack in the Federal Magistrates Courts of Lismore, and I found him to be non-biased.
Yeah, and just calm, listening to the facts and allowing the parties to communicate.
Yes.
And just adjudicating. Do you feel that would you believe if you got the recordings, or that the Federal Attorney General got the recordings of your court case, do you believe that after you've heard that my recordings, where every time that she was asking questions, that has been removed, and every time she was screaming and swearing, have been removed, do you have any belief at all that she would have done the same thing in your case?
Yes, I believe she would.
Do you believe that anyone who's actually going into court and has a magistrate who's yelling and who's sitting there and not deliberating and actually asking questions rather than listening to the questions being answered by the children's lawyer, by the mother's lawyer, that you should start to record? Do you wish you did your own recordings inside the courtroom?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you believe that because you didn't make those recordings, that you now have to suffer that you haven't got your child?
I don't know if it would have made any difference, John.
But you would have been able to expose it to the Federal Attorney General as well.
Absolutely, I would have.
So therefore, by exposing it, there would be a lot of angry people at courts altering recordings, and if they hear what Federal Magistrate Demack is like in a courtroom. I'll just show you something. When I was military for 9 years, I understand pressure. I understand all sorts of ways of pushing someone to their limits, and that's what military is all about. Inside the courtroom, that's my teeth, right? I had perfect teeth when I walked into that courtroom. I crushed down and I broke 2 teeth in half because of the yelling and screaming of Federal Magistrate Demack. She actually, because she was so angry, not at me, but at my lawyer, for actually wanting to expose that another lawyer was fabricating and making lies for the other party. She was angry.
She was also very angry in my court case, and extremely angry at the fact that I had the court psychologist, the second one, cross-examined by my barrister, because I found her report to be unscientific and unprofessional, and she was absolutely livid at that cross-examination, because she found it a sound report. She found it because this particular family report writer has been with the court since 2008, and her name is Barbara Davies, and she was, I could see that she was really angry at me and my barrister for having cross-examined her.
at your barrister as well. That's very interesting because she was very angry at my barrister, right? And she kicked him out of the courtroom and gave him a bill for $9,999, and he was registered with the High Court. He has not practiced since that court case.
Well, my barrister was...
His career is blown, finished, because of that federal magistrate.
Wow. Well,
Now,
my barrister was also almost barred as well from the court, and he had to actually call the barrister board to see if he could stay on my case. And I recall that this had to do with, I had many lawyers, and this particular lawyer called Nikki Brookland was representing me at the time, and when I got the family report by Barbara Davies, I was so shocked at this report because it just, I didn't stand a chance with that report.
No. But explain to the viewers, because we've missed a little bit. You had the first report, which was saying that you should have the child, no if, no buts. Then your ex-partner said, I'm not happy with that report, and wanted another one, and so now it's gone from one to the basically from one pole to the other pole in the direction of what the child should be.
Well, that happened also because these sexual allegations happened after the first report. So that's when Barbara Davies was brought in, and I sent the report to supporting family members, and my lawyer Nikki Brookland found this out, and she resigned as my lawyer when I was about to go into the main, the final case, and just before...
You know it's illegal, and the Federal Attorney General should know that if a lawyer removes themselves and it's going to cause harm to one of the parties, right, that it's actually illegal for them to do.
Well,
the Federal Attorney General must know that this type of behaviour happens, and in fact it happened to me, where both the children's lawyer and the mother's lawyer bugged out when I exposed that they were assisting with the lies, and but that's going to be explained to the Federal Attorney General in great detail.
Wow. Well, that happened, and not only did she resign, she provided the other party with the document of that I had provided my family with the family report, which according to the court and Demack was illegal of me. And she then ordered that all my emails, they were to have access to all my emails and correspondence with those family members.
Did she write it as a court order, or
yes.
Did she just order? She wrote it in, right? Okay.
Down, and also they ordered for my computer to be confiscated by my lawyer, who was Ben Krasselstein, who operates in Mullumbimby.
Okay, I'll get you to give me his full name and his phone number, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to contact, because he never returned back the computer.
No.
And also, I think the viewer should know that he was a party to knowing that Federal Magistrate Demack's behaviour is not is bias, and I'm basically going to try and call that man and see whether he will admit, and I'm going to record it for the Federal Attorney General. So therefore, it is a lawyer on your side who will admit that these criminal actions, because it is criminal, when it is abuse of a public official, and the Federal Attorney General understands the Criminal Code and the Crimes Act of 1914, 1912, 1914, and also knows about perverting the course of justice. And when you have judges who are denying you to bring people in to courtrooms, denying you the right to
Show your
a fair
side of
hearing.
the story, to have your
Yeah,
side heard
yeah,
and have the witnesses heard. I mean, you can't just hear the one side of the witnesses and not the other.
that's right. Yeah. And so she just wants it so it's clear cut. You're bad. You're not getting to see the child ever again.
Well, basically, I signed the piece of paper saying that I wouldn't see my daughter again if I signed it, but I mean, that's literally what's happened anyway, and I've had very, very sporadic and little contact with my daughter.
Yeah.
I experienced my daughter as someone who's depressed and is neglected, and I mean, when a child is neglected, it's a form of abuse, and when a child needs their other parent,
Yeah.
it's a form of abuse.
So you recommend, as I do, that if someone's lying in court, and since judges don't care if people are lying in court anymore, and that's the way that they win,
Yeah,
to protect your child, you should run and run and run and never return.
yes.
Never return.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, I understand why there's so much child abduction happening in the world
Yep.
now, and it's very prolific, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely comprehensible. If people,
I'm going to show the Federal Attorney General how a clear-cut way of lying on affidavits to pervert the course of justice, right?
Yeah.
But it's a case of it doesn't matter in family court. No one gets charged for it, so lawyers get away with
Yeah.
it. They teach it. They
Yeah.
teach it to their
Yeah.
to. So I'm going to teach what the lawyers do in secret. So that way, the Federal Attorney General have to explain to people why is it that I have a clear-cut method to remove a child from a parent, and I'm going to teach people how to lie, as was done in my case, word to the T, and how to mentally abuse, how to financially destroy a person, and how to remove
Absolutely.
their jobs.
yeah,
I'm going to teach that. What it's going to do is it's going to force the Federal Attorney General to say, hang on, this is illegal. Not to look at me and go, oh, he's teaching, he's perverting the course of justice. No. It's happened to me in my case. I've lost my daughter.
yeah,
And if he's going to allow people to lie in court and to destroy a child's life and a parent's life for the rest of their lives,
Yeah.
then I'm going to teach it.
I
Because
think it's
I can,
better.
and because I got the balls to do it, because no one should
no,
have gone through what you and I have gone through, especially with Federal Magistrate Demack. I have gone, and the Federal Attorney General will understand, I've been a Mackenzie friend in other court cases. I have seen professionalism in many cases,
yes,
and I understand, right, the difference between a good judge and one that is abuse of office.
absolutely.
I wish the Federal Attorney General to actually raise, after he sees my videos, and he's going to, if he ignores them, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And the thing is you look at my videos. Silence is deafening from Federal Magistrate Demack. She is keeping extremely silent as to what she's done to me.
Yes,
And now
Yeah.
she's going to be extremely silent as to what's happened to you. And what's going to be very interesting too is when your daughter is strong enough to say, Mummy is right. That did happen. And when she does that, you know, the devastation that federal magistrate does by not listening to parties and being biased is absolutely incredible. I had two justices of the peace. I had a doctor confirming that I was the principal carer even before before we separated. I was seeing, I used to come home. I would make sure that when I worked that I had 90 staff. I had a multi-million-dollar business. I made sure that I was...
John, have you used up all your funds on this?
Yes.
I mean, that in itself is a crime,
Well, what the crime is that I am now suffering post-traumatic stress. Even the psychiatrist, which Demack actually was going like this in the courtroom to him and going and lip reading, right, and trying to get him to agree that I was a narcissist in the court. And she actually even wrote court orders before he was able to assess me that I had serious medical problems, and it was because I was complaining to the old federal attorney general, who was an absolute waste of space. And I'm glad that government is gone now, and I'm hoping that the new government that is in power now will do something and raise a royal commission. I'm after a royal commission, or throw. If I'm lying, right, throw my ass in jail. Throw my ass in jail for breaching the Family Law Act, 121, chapter 15, 121.
Well,
Section
I
121.
actually say something about jail, because when I discovered, what had happened to my daughter, the father was out of the country, but he came back, and we were in South Australia at the time, and I was threatened by my own lawyer that if I didn't put my child back on a plane to her father, that I would be put in jail. And during the cross-examination of the child's barrister, he said that what mother would put her child on a plane back to a pedophile? I was threatened by jail from my own lawyer, Cassandra Bennett, at the time.
But why did you?
Well, I was so scared, John. I was just so scared about being put in jail and not being able to be there for my daughter, in the middle of all this. I was so scared. I didn't know what, I was just being torn here, there,
Threatened with jail. Yeah. What chance have you got to fight for your child if you're in jail?
How could I fight for my child if I'm in jail?
Yeah.
And then I'm told, how could I do that if And I mean, they put you in this situation where I couldn't do anything right. I couldn't do anything right. Nothing.
Was there any family member of yours on your side of the family who did not support your application to having looking after? And what were you after? Were you after just 50-50 care? Is that what you were looking for?
Well, initially, from the first report writer, he thought it was best to keep it as it was, because my daughter was living with me since she was, we've been together since she was born, and he hadn't been present for a couple of years, and that he got, every second weekend and one, half the school holidays and all that.
Yeah.
And I was happy. I mean, I found it hard because my daughter used to come back, with eczema and not cared for, neglected. And I knew that I had to do this, and I found that hard to accept on some level, as well.
You were telling me too that your daughter did suffer from eczema, and that if it's, and I understand eczema, one of my brothers had it when he was young. If you don't treat it and keep the cortisone, I think it's cortisone cream, on the actual eczema, it spreads and it continues to get worse and worse and worse. So and basically when you leave it, it gets worse.
Well, my daughter, since being in the care of her father, has had chronic eczema. I mean, it's been raw. I've got pictures, I've got proof of all the times that I've seen her, when I've taken video footage of her. I mean, her skin was raw, and she's now got like permanent, scarring and permanent pigmentation loss in her skin because he's not treating her. Now, also under my court case, my daughter the doctors couldn't actually decipher what she had because it was such a chronic outburst of these sores. It was more than eczema. And I had to keep her out of school for 3 months.
You're talking about school sores or something?
Well, they said it was school sores, but then other doctors said they weren't sure what it was because it just wouldn't clear up. And I have pictures of this, John, and these pictures are absolutely horrendous. And Demack states in here that I have completely overreacted on a normal childhood illness. And there's no doctor that has said in the documentation that was a normal childhood illness.
No. Do you realise that, and this is what happened with me as well, she actually believes that she gives medical prognoses inside the courtroom.
Yeah.
She has her own medical opinions. Instead of getting a medical opinion, she makes her own medical opinions. And she actually, she actually bought Dr. Chalk's medical opinion to say that I wasn't suffering post-traumatic stress, and both of us.
That you weren't.
Yeah, that I wasn't. Yeah, that I wasn't suffering it, and that I wasn't depressed.
Well, how could a person go through what we've gone through and not have any side effects? I mean, that's just not logical. I mean, that's impossible.
Well, they're trying to say that it was all in my head, that it never happened. I mean, it was in my head. I cracked my teeth in the courtroom. That wasn't in my head.
Well,
what it is more people have to come forward about her abuse.
Well,
she can pretend, right, that she never did it, but these people deserve, and the public of Australia deserve, a better judge inside that court. She has to go. She's a pig.
Now, the thing is that I have been accused of being an overly protective and enmeshed mother, and she found my response to my daughter's illness as overreacting. How can I be overreacting when I don't have family in Australia on that side? I don't have. I was living quite isolated. I was on my own, having to wash all my daughter's clothing every day because they thought it was contagious. I had to stay up all night with her screaming as these sores were bursting, and she was having nightmares for months and months end.
It would be very traumatic for a child, to have it. It's embarrassing for a starter.
Also for me, I mean, obviously, the father who went to court was all calm and collect as well because he hasn't had to look after his daughter under those circumstances, and nothing of that is considered in a court, in Demack's court anyway.
So, do you believe that in any way do you believe anyone could possibly have a fair trial with the attitude that Demack has?
No.
If one party is lying their teeth off?
No.
Do you believe that any party can actually have a fair hearing? Do you understand the term void ab initio? From the inception of crime, that a case, the Federal Attorney General will know, void ab initio for when a crime starts and commences, that the case should start from there. As soon as I can prove that right from the inception of the case, that the lies upon lies upon lies. I mean, I'm supposed to be such a dirty, dirty person that I'm not supposed to brush my teeth, I'm not supposed to wash, I'm not supposed to do anything at all, and that I didn't want to have anything to do with my child whatsoever, other than play with her for 2 hours a month. That's written in the affidavit. When I've got next door neighbours, and even we used to pay, because we were fairly well off. We had the next door neighbours' kids. They actually were very poor, and so we used to pay them pocket money. The boys used to wash the car. The girls used to do the dishes, or something, of that order. And now one of them's an adult. That they left. They lived for 14 years as next door neighbours. Yeah. They've left. I actually saw her, and she said that she's written an affidavit that my ex-partner should go to jail for what she has written, and that it's totally untrue, and that she will testify to the truth. Now, that is a person who has no reason to lie. My doctor has no reason to lie whatsoever. Well, JPs, they have no reason to lie. But it's a case of when Demack, she thinks that she's got ESP, and that she can just look at the person and go, no, she's telling the truth. He's lying, or he's lying. She's vice versa, and she can make up her own mind without hearing the facts.
Well, that's right. I must also mention that she says that she has no reason to believe through the doctor's certificates, that Hedda was in a bad way. And I have doctors saying that she's suffering tremendous stress, and this situation needs to be resolved as soon as possible for the child, and it gets drawn out and out and out. And I mean, what I'm amazed at, I have a final court order, and I'm so traumatized at the end, and all my finances being gobbled up, and he got legal aid, and I wasn't allowed to have legal aid.
Can you explain why you weren't allowed to have legal aid? Because the viewers need to know this.
Because my case did not stand a chance of winning.
Correct. What happens, and this is for the viewers to understand, and anyone going to court, is what they do is they look at both the affidavits, and they go, wow, they look how bad this person is, because they read the affidavit and they go, well, hey, this person's going to win because they're lying their teeth off. This person is not is trying to be respectful, and maybe not talking about the abuse that they have suffered, and basically that they're just wanting to move forward and to approach it. Come on, we've done wrong things, let's move forward. And they go, no, you won't get legal aid because you've got no chance of winning. So for the viewers out there, number one, either lie your teeth off, which I don't believe you should.
Well, I can't.
I couldn't either. I thought, when I went to court, I looked up at the lady holding the scales, and I felt really proud, thinking that I'm going to get justice. I'm going to be able to tell my story, and I thought, yep, I'm finally going to get the pressure taken off me and the hurts taken off me, and that the courts are going to be reasonable, and that the courts are going to give justice, and that they're going to be unbiased. I didn't even dream that they could.
No, me neither. John, how shocked.
If she was a boss, if she was a boss in any business, she would be sued for millions of dollars if they allowed to record, but because the courts don't allow recordings, that's the way that she gets away with being so evil. So I say to everyone, you record.
Absolutely.
It's your child is at
Absolutely.
risk, right? By you don't know if the judge is going to. And do you know, I find that the professional judges, they're proud of being professional and they're proud of being a judge, and they don't give a shit if they are recorded or not, because they are being reasonable and they are professionals.
Yeah, and they're following their oath.
They're following their oath of office, right? To be unbiased.
Well, I mean, I just, I mean, can you imagine being abused physically by a person, and that evidence is not even considered in the court by Demack, and the fact that I had police reports, I had not only police reports, I'd been going to a domestic violence resource centre for 2 years. And they don't respect the domestic violence resource centres at all in Australia. I mean, you know, I took it to Barbara Davies, the report writer, and she didn't even consider it. Can you imagine how that feels? To know that you're not protected in this, you know, in that system.
I believe that this isn't over with your case, because number one, I'm going to contact that lawyer, and I'm going to, if you trust me, to communicate with that
Absolutely.
lawyer. You know how I'm careful, and I am. I promise I will be careful, and I want to get him recorded that he knows that she is very abusive in the courts.
Absolutely.
And above any other judge that is in Queensland, New South Wales, or Australia, perhaps, or the world.
Well,
I've never heard of anyone saying the word cunt in a courtroom.
That's outrageous. I mean, she didn't call me any names, but she screamed and shouted when I had changed my course, because I was put in a situation where if I didn't sign that paper, I would never.
They were threatening
They bullied me. My own
Yep.
team threatened me and bullied
Yep.
me into signing that
Yep.
piece of paper, and yet that never ever, I wasn't allowed to say that it wasn't my change of course.
All right.
And
So the
sounds
third thing,
you cannot, you know, when you're in it, as you were as well, I mean, you just couldn't fathom that this could be allowed, that this actually went on.
Now, if for some reason the Australian Police or the Federal Attorney General decides that he wants to try and remove this evidence of what happens inside the courts, can you promise me to ensure that this goes up on other international websites? I'll send you a copy, so that way the story must be told.
Absolutely.
And Australia has jurisdiction in Australia. We need other people to know, and it's going to cause the most horrific damage right across the world by me teaching how to a step-by-step procedure to destroy someone emotionally, financially, and take the child. There's going to be people that will want to probably kill me for teaching what I'm going to teach, but they're going to be very angry at the Federal Attorney General of Australia that why is it that a procedure such as this can be done, and that there is no charges for people to lie and fabricate and that lawyers can assist, and then when they get exposed, that they toddle off and run away from court cases. The Federal Attorney General must see how it is done, and he will have to say, no, this is wrong, and he will say, right, a royal commission into why this is allowed, a royal commission as to about Federal Magistrate Demack and her activities. There is ways and means to prove that the recordings were altered forensically, and I believe that as the Federal Attorney General knows, federal police will not investigate their boss, which is a judge, the federal judges, and the state police cannot deal with federal cases and won't deal with federal cases, and they won't deal with family law cases.
I know that.
And that is confirmed.
I know that.
That's
I've been
and
through
so
the whole thing
something
myself.
has to be
There's
done.
nowhere to go.
Where
There's nowhere to go. There's
Yeah.
no one to complain to.
Yeah.
There's no one to get help when you are in that
Yeah.
situation you and I have been in. And I find that
Yeah.
criminal in itself, because as a citizen you should be able to have the human right to complain
Yeah.
about an injustice.
Yeah. Well, I was basically court ordered to lose my job. I'll be explaining everything. I'll be explaining everything about what has happened to me and what has happened to my daughter. And I want my daughter to know
Absolutely.
that on my birthday, I cried my eyes out. On Christmas Day, I cried my eyes out. I was not able to go to a shopping centre during Christmas because of seeing kids happy and hearing Christmas carols and seeing families getting
I know
excited.
exactly how you feel.
I could not do it. I could not bear to do it because I miss my daughter, and I have never ever done anything wrong to my daughter.
I know.
And I want her to know that her father has been totally destroyed by an injustice.
Well, you
system.
haven't been totally destroyed, John, because you're not allowed them to
I'm
destroy
pretty
you.
destroyed.
But
I'm
you
strong.
are, I understand. Me, I have to face Christmas with children because I'm working with, the church, and I have to face being there and seeing families together in my job.
Yeah.
And it's very, very hard. And I have to sometimes run out and go and wipe my tears and, go back and, be the strong role, and as, the assistance of priests in our Norwegian, it's actually the state church of Norway.
Yeah.
This is my 4th Christmas without my daughter that I've had to go through. And her father doesn't give her any nice presents, and my daughter's so beautiful, she believes in Father Christmas, and I always used to make sure that I gave her gifts from him with special wrappings. And this year her father had gone around her room and taken old Easter eggs and things that were on her shelves and wrapped them and said they were from Father Christmas. And it just broke my heart, to see how she's treated.
Well, my daughter, I would probably do a video where basically I'm supposed to be a beer drinker. I've never been a beer drinker. I'm not of that. I've just never been a beer drinker. But I was supposed to have left bottle caps lying around that my daughter could swallow. I did courses. I did anger management courses where they said, "What the hell are you doing?" It takes a lot to get me angry, and extremely. And the thing is I'm a very patient man. I have waited. I have been seeing psychologists to actually get better. and to help me with the pain. But I have not finished until Federal Magistrate Demack is in jail, is removed from the courts, and that it's a warning to all judges in every country of the world that you do the right thing, you don't be unbiased, and that you do tell the truth and allow the truth to be told.
Absolutely.
And if someone is lying and they catch them, that there is an immediate penalty. To nip it in the bud is the first thing, and to ensure that if they get caught lying to pervert the course of justice, that the first time it's only a minor offence, that they're cautioned, but if they do it again, that they will go to jail. That will make sure that people don't lie in court.
Well, I think, also like putting my daughter into the full-time care of my ex-husband, who is a documentary filmmaker, who has to go away on vacation for weeks at a time, up to 6 weeks. And at the time, during this court case, he had an American girlfriend who said she would be there for my daughter. When this case finished, that woman disappeared, and my daughter has had up now to 7 different au pairs and carers, that some of which have been in relationship with her father. He goes away and leaves my daughter alone now at present with a Spanish au pair that can't even speak her language. She has no one to talk to. She doesn't get school lunches. She just has to buy food at school. She doesn't have any very close friendships because her hygiene standards are not as they should be. And the same thing happened in Western Australia when she was living there recently. Her friendships were broken down because her father wouldn't give her clean schoolwear. Her hair was dirty because he wouldn't buy her shampoo. And this is what, and this, they're giving people the child into care of a person who's not caring for them at all. And I'm just...
Well, you can't say at all.
Well,
remember that she may still love him, or be forced to basically...
Children love their parents no matter what. There have been children that have been grossly sexually abused on all levels, but they have this love for their parents, and I know that, of course, she has this love for him.
No, look, if someone's been abused, right, and they're sometimes really bloody scared of them.
Well, she is. My daughter
really
is
scared.
Extremely afraid of her father, because the first visit I got in January 2013 for 2 weeks, after the 2 weeks had passed, my daughter wanted to live with me. And the father, when they went home, was violent to her. And now that he's removed her from Australia to the UK, where I was absent at that last hearing because Demack refused to accept my affidavits, and she refused to adjourn the case so that my lawyer from Sydney, my barrister, could prepare properly for me to have the case heard. And I'm living in Norway, and there has to be concessions when a person lives in another country. And she didn't care. She threw it all out, and she's made the last order was that he's allowed to remove my daughter to the UK for 6 months or longer without even notifying me.
Is that what she's done? Just to harm you that little bit more? Just not to even know, and your daughter must know that is cruel. What she did the same to me, that she doesn't need to advise when they come back in the country, and I had problems with the PACE alert. She actually told police that she was going to leave the country. Police actually helped me with getting the PACE alert, an emergency PACE alert put on a weekend. It was all removed because Federal Magistrate Demack didn't want to listen to anyone.
And that's the same with me, because my daughter had a Norwegian passport and a British passport, and then he wanted to take out an Australian passport, and I rejected that idea because I felt that her Norwegian passport had to be renewed, because my daughter, I'm Norwegian, I want my daughter to have her other citizenship, and Demack, she ruled it over, that he can take out an Australian passport, and he can decide that she travels on that passport.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wait. I will do that investigation for you and record. It's actually lawful to make a recording here in the state of Queensland without the other party knowing. No, it's different. You can't do that in New South Wales. But the thing is I don't give a damn. The truth has to be known of what Federal Magistrate Demack is like, so that the Federal Attorney General can kick that woman out of the court.
I also feel
she's got to go.
feel that there has to be a reform with the federal police, because to come and remove a child and not have any paperwork and give me 5 minutes to pack a bag and, tell my daughter that she has to go with these policemen is completely outrageous.
But why? Did they? What was the reason for that?
Well, the father had got the federal police to collect my daughter on the grounds that I had absconded with her when we had only been on holiday. And he knew that because he had. I told him we were going away, and he also had access to all my emails, which was also proven under my case. But Demack completely overlooked it. I mean, that's a criminal offence to have access to a person's email.
Can you imagine 9 months of not seeing your daughter, and then finding that she is undernourished, and that she is. And you've got a doctor telling you that she is failing to thrive, was his exact words. She was screaming her head off. She said a doctor would never say that, and I had to show her in the subpoena, and the Federal Attorney General can confirm that it is there. But I want to make sure that the Federal Attorney General is able to get hold of the original recordings from the day of court, and actually forensically testing as to when those recordings were made. If they were made at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, he will know that they are altered. And he will know if when the doors were locked or security. Everything is video recorded inside those courts, when Demack would have actually left the court.
Okay, and so are they on film, or is it just voice recordings?
Well, this is the problem, and this is where the Federal Attorney General will have to change the law, and it's not going to cost anything much to actually have it that it's video recorded. And that it has a time, split-second time, going through the video, and so that way, it's not possible for them to cut it, and to edit the video recording. It'll be constant.
Well, I mean, I believe in America they have them all filmed. I mean, it's
yeah,
and I mean that could be the case in Australia. I mean that This is why it's suspicious in the first place, why they don't have it filmed.
It is, and I've actually got a professor of law. He's a professor of law. He actually said that the only reason, and I've got him recorded, the only reason that they don't want it recorded is if they're doing something wrong that they don't want the public to know about it, or to have evidence of it. And the Federal Attorney General will have to listen to that also when the Royal Commission happens. There is cause and reason why a Royal Commission has to be done on this matter.
Absolutely. And
I'm not doing it to get my child.
well, I know, and I'm not doing.
I mean, I do care, but I care about every human being that walks in and enters the courts of Australia, because at the moment, the Federal Attorney General has to fix, and especially the video recordings.
No, I think that's an absolute necessity to keep law and order and justice, for there to be some justice.
Yep. That's right. That it isn't a crime syndicate where she plays God, and that she can do whatever she likes, and that you can't record and you can't talk about what we do, because you will go to jail if you talk about it. No, Federal Attorney General. No, the people deserve justice. The people deserve the right to a fair and reasonable trial. The people deserve to have court orders written, and deserve to be able to appeal. And I'll be explaining to the Federal Attorney General later that it is impossible to appeal when you've got a criminal as a magistrate. And he's going to be absolutely
you know
shocked.
what? I just find it very interesting, because I wanted to appeal. I couldn't accept, and you can speak to Crassenstein, Ben, about that. But I did apply for an appeal, but I don't think I would have ever been granted an appeal with Demack, ever.
Did your witnesses, were they told not to be in the courtroom as well?
Yes, and even...
Bingo. She did the exact same thing. She wouldn't allow them to actually be witnesses, but they had to be out of the court.
But I mean, his partner was allowed in, and my ex's partner, and then I had a friend sitting there, because I said to a friend of mine, you must stay here because I need your support, and she was told to leave by my lawyer to weaken me more. So I had no one sitting there when I was being cross-examined.
Even we're not talking about a Mackenzie friend where they're sitting with you at the bar. That you're talking about a person that is sitting at the back of the court, actually just watching. That they were told to leave the court. What happens is the lawyers protect the judges, right? Because then they'll get promoted up the ranks as well.
That's exactly
because
it, John.
we all protect each other. No. If that's how the Federal Attorney General's got to his level, well then, Federal Attorney General of Australia, fix this, or otherwise seriously, there's going to be some major issues in the future with the family courts, because I'm going to teach how and what was done in my case, because if it's lawful to do, which it is, because Federal Magistrate has allowed it to happen, so it's acceptable behaviour, then I'm going to teach it, Federal Attorney General, and there's nothing you can do. You can throw me in jail, but you watch the people when they start realising that my videos that I've got prepared, other ones ready, you will be out of your job.
Well, something has to be done, something drastic. And this is why I'm so pleased that I found you, and I'm doing this because I'm doing it for other mothers and fathers and children. I don't want more lives to be destroyed as there have been in the past. And
I'm going to finish this with that there was a guy who lit himself up, right? He poured petrol all over his body. He lit himself up and ran at the courts, and I believe that it was Federal Magistrate Demack who was actually the judge, because I asked her in the courtroom and she refused to advise.
And who, do you know this person, and do you know the fact?
No, I don't know. I know it's a fact. It was in the newspapers.
Oh, God.
He lit himself up.
Did he die?
Now,
Did he
if,
die?
if he died, he died. Imagine if it was you or me that couldn't handle the situation anymore, and that we did it.
Well, John, I was a wreck. I was living in hiding in Byron Bay. My ex also created a lot of scare tactics when he knew where I lived. And I just knew that I wasn't going to get an appeal. And you can confirm that with Ben Kreisselstein. And I actually thought that if I stayed in Norway after a while, when I realized that he could remove my daughter, even though it's illegal, he illegally removed my daughter from Byron Bay area to Western Australia without any orders, without informing me, and at the time he had to inform me.
That's so he disobeyed the court orders, and you lose. Good on you, federal Demack.
Exactly.
Good on you. You promote. You look after the person who is prepared to destroy a child's life. Congratulations. That is the type of behaviour that I want stomped out. I want anyone who is going to pervert the course of justice in a courtroom to be charged. If it's serious enough that a child is removed because of false allegations, and it can be proved 100% without a doubt that they were false allegations.
Exactly.
Then
there's no proof. There's no scientific evidence. There's so much evidence I had in the court from people of strange behavior, sexual behavior of my daughter, which she had never done before. Not just, from me, from other people. They're in affidavits. There's, my domestic violence. I have evidence. This has got to stop. And
yeah, it's either got to stop, or there's going to be more deaths. There's going to be more people that have lost their careers. There's going to be more people that are suffering post-traumatic stress, and basically my recommendation is that if you have a person and a judge that is totally biased, you quit your job, you give up, because your life is just about to become hell, and you go see a doctor, and basically you give up, or you run, and you make sure that if you're a good parent, that you look after that kid. But the thing is if you want to be totally destroyed, or wind up dead because you can't handle the situation anymore, or that child has been taken out of the country and you don't know if you're ever going to see that child again, and you just hope and pray, well, sorry, but this is wrong. And the Federal Attorney General, you start recording and getting those video recordings, because by golly, this ain't going to happen ever again in Australia.
Well, John, I advise all the parents that go through what we've been through to absolutely try their hardest to stay upraised, because our children need us. Our children need us. Can you imagine a child that grows up and doesn't have that parent that they will need one day? We have to be here to be there for them.
What if, they just... I suffer because, I've got a permanent shake now, because basically I had nightmares.
I know.
I with her screaming and yelling, I've had the most severe nightmares.
Me too.
And the thing is I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to even walk out in public. And
what are you embarrassed about?
my shaking, you know, or you know, or sometimes I went to a restaurant as an example with a friend, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden this kid just ran up to her dad and gave her dad a big hug, and I just burst into tears, right? I didn't even know I was going to do it. I just burst into tears, right? And I felt embarrassed, right, for my brother, for, you know, for me, and basically, you know, it's taken its toll. But the thing is if I can get the Federal Attorney General to do this Royal Commission, well then maybe I'll be able to stand on my own 2 feet and say, I did that for my daughter, and I did that for Australia.
Absolutely.
And I did that for the whole friggin' world.
Absolutely. And this is why I'm here, because I too, I completely understand. I burst into tears. I had panic attacks. You know, when you know that your child actually isn't being cared for the way they should, and it's
well, I'm gonna say this. My daughter had grown 20% body weight when I took her. Right, I took her because I was scared. From her doctor weighing her before I took her, from her doctor weighing after I brought her back, in that 6 weeks duration, she grew 20% body weight. 20% body weight. And there was not one, but 2 doctors saying that she had an eating disorder, and all it was that my daughter was being fed the wrong things and allowed to eat.
Well, my
the wrong
daughter also
foods.
is not being getting the right nutrition either.
Yep. And when the Federal Attorney General goes, "Oh, that's bullshit," no, it's in the subpoenaed documents. It's there in black and white.
Well, John, it's actually an
true.
imperative for a child to have right diet in order for them to function mentally well, and this is where mental health comes in, you know. And you know, that to me is like so important. And I can see when I have video conferences with my daughter, she's just all over she's like this and changing the subject, and I mean, just to be, you know, for me to have conversations with her is a trauma, because I know that she's not getting the right nutrition, and she's not being cared for like a child should be cared for. And this has to change.
We'll finish up now, but is there something that you would like to say to your daughter?
Heather, I just want you to know that Mama has done everything in her power under the circumstances of what we were put through, me and you, to never give up. Will never ever give up. I will never give up to have contact and to see you, because you have a right, you have a human right to see your mother, and I have a human right to see you. And I love you, my angel. You mean everything to me, everything.